The next member that we have sharing the stage today has an incredible story. After the fall event last year, he was challenged by his GoPod to reach out to me and asked if he could share his story from stage, almost like a member spotlight, if you will. We did this last year in Arizona, and his GoPod challenged him to share the story. Now, when I got on the phone with Jobin, I thought, okay, this is going to be another badass dude who's going to share a cool story and it'll be a great opportunity. What he shared with me fundamentally changed how I looked at the world. He shared stories with me about things he's experienced from his nonprofit that works in communities in Africa and South America that totally blew my mind. Things that no child should ever have to go through, things that no family should ever have to go through, but things he and his team have had to experience firsthand and help solve for people in need. So I want to give Jobin a big round of applause and invite him up onto the stage to share his story.
We're going to go deep. Are you guys ready? I guarantee I'm going to cry. I don't get uncomfortable or embarrassed. If you guys get uncomfortable, you got to work through that and try to catch up to where I'm at that point. I'm not a professional speaker, never been trained, none of that stuff, but I am my children's favorite storyteller. So when I get in front of a group, I just tell a story. This isn't half as bad as last time. Last time as I was walking on stage, they told me the monitor wasn't working. I would have no notes. That's a little bit of a shock when you've prepared for 2 months for a presentation to a large group. I want all you guys to pull your cell phones out. You're probably never going to hear this from a speaker. Pull your cell phones out. Okay, 949-338-2681. I want you to text your guess at what that word means. Do not Google it. It's not going to help. But don't Google it. Don't do anything. Text that word. You're going to text two things, so you can do it all in one text if you want. A one-word guess at what that means, and then now a second word that provides context. I know, crazy, right? Trust me, it's gonna get way crazier. You pronounce it shikara. Good luck. This is me. This is 5:15 in the morning. This is when I met Eric for the first time. I saw a Facebook post on a Facebook group saying that this was a father. He had a daughter the same age as mine, and he was dying, and he needed a kidney. And I saw hundreds of thoughts and prayers, comments. And sometimes you don't need thoughts and prayers, you need action. You need someone to say yes. So I reached out to his wife, and I said, hey, what's going on? If you look at his face, when he's got the little hat on there, that's the face of an old man. He's 34 years old. As we're being wheeled back in, the doctor told me that he had 5 weeks left to live. As I'm being wheeled back in, I only have one question on my mind. Have I done enough? Most people will look at that and be like, well, that's noble. He's worried if he's done enough. But that was the disease. I was still trying to prove that I was worthy. I was trying to earn my place. I was even giving away an organ, but I was still the prover. That's the disease of high achievers. We think if we just do one more thing, one more achievement, then we'll finally be enough. But we never are because the goalpost just keeps moving. But let me take you back to where it started. So I grew up in the Amazon rainforest. My parents went on 2 adventures. Now, if you think you know an adventure or you think you are an adventurer, try going to the Amazon rainforest in the 70s with no internet to research where you're going. So my parents went on 2 separate adventures, crossed paths for 3 weeks, got engaged, and then lived there for 25 years. Those were adventurers. Many of those years were marred by civil war. So that's where I grew up. That's the little space I got locked down in for years at a time. Well, I was supposed to be locked down. I actually had a dugout canoe, so it was like, okay. As soon as the parents weren't looking, all the kids went in our dugout canoes and took off. I was immersed in more violence and poverty than most people will see in their entire life, especially in North America. A really close friend of mine, his father was executed on the side of the road in front of the family. Sean missed a few days of school because apparently that's how long it takes to recover from the trauma of finding a man stuck to a tree with knives. We were in 3rd grade. I had a dual identity. I had my parents' first world culture within our home, and my skin matched that culture. But I was a jungle kid from a 3rd world culture, and I would be that for the rest of my life. And I thought it meant I didn't fit in anywhere. See, there's the picture of the blue color of a first world country, that's in our home. The yellow color of the entire community that I grew up in, everything around me. And I wasn't blue, even though my skin matched it. And I wasn't yellow, even though I felt like yellow, but nobody looked at me and saw yellow. And when you slide those circles together, it forms a green little sliver. And so they call us 3rd culture kids. And when we meet other people that are 3rd culture kids, man, we become best friends in about 8 seconds because we get each other. Mi piel es blanco, pero como un gringo, pero mi corazón es charapa, un paisano de la selva. I don't speak with a gringo accent when I speak Spanish, and so it really throws people off. It's a lot of fun. Also, when they talk about me, I know what they're saying, which is probably my favorite part. That was my favorite tree. Every boy growing up should have a favorite tree. We used to climb in all those branches, run around. Right now, you're looking at it in the rainy season. We would dive in. We had about 4 access points back into the tree again. We'd play for hours in this tree. During the dry season, those branches were 30 to 40 feet off of dry ground. That's how much it fluctuated where I lived. That's the little trail up to my house. And that's one of the canoes, one of my friend's canoes. As you can tell, we blended in really well. So when they're like, don't leave the base, everybody knew that we left the base. Yeah, so that was our access to freedom during lockdowns, is we would just hop in our little canoe and be like, see ya. The animals I grew up around were zoo animals to you guys. That's a llama. That's a monkey on my brother's shoulder. He's also a monkey. His name's Gabby, not my brother, the monkey. My brother's name's Josh, but that's Gabby the monkey. That little parrot I caught before it had any feathers. My dad said there was a hole way up in a tree about 30 feet up, and he said if I'd shimmy up, then he'd help me get it, right? I get up to the top of this thing, I'm hanging on like this, and my dad and my brother take sledgehammers and start hitting the base of the tree so that the mom would fly out, and then I could reach out. I'm just going like this on top of a tree. So I pulled that thing out. I raised it from a little featherless little parrot with an eyedropper. That's Aaron, my friend. That's a boa constrictor. I hated snakes, but I gave in to peer pressure, and I owned one for a while too. When that thing got away, man, that was like the best thing that ever happened to me. I still hate snakes. The parrot's called a pihuicho. That's the name of a parrot. They squawk all the time. At age 6, I heard my mom pray, and she said a word. She said, shikara, and I knew what it meant. Remember that word. It comes back in 40 years. I won't take 40 years to tell the story, but that's when it comes back. At age 14, a man prayed over me, and he said, God will provide opportunities and resources. You've been given a calling to impact many people. I immediately thought, I can interpret this. I'm going to be a professional soccer player. And so I thought that from 14, 15, 16. Then my best friend started down the path towards becoming a professional soccer player. And he ended up playing for the Peruvian national team. And I looked on the soccer field and I said, I am not that. I'm good, but I am not that. And if that's what it takes, then that prayer was wrong. Not that I misinterpreted it, but that prayer was wrong. Those were 2 moments, 2 seeds were planted. It was decades before they'd bloom, and I had no idea what was coming. In 4th grade, I was sexually assaulted, and all my friends were too. Everything changed that day. It disrupted the trajectory of my life. I spent the next decades addicted to proving that I was okay, proving I was worthy, proving I was enough. I wore many different masks of addiction over the years. I was trying to prove I wasn't broken. I left my jungle home at 18 years old. I set off to prove myself. So all my family, all my friends in the middle of the Amazon, and I moved to North America to go to university. No contact. I had $15 to my name. I worked hard manual labor jobs. I actually worked around here. I worked in reforestation. I lived in tents for 4 months at a time. I worked 12 to 14 hours a day, 13 days on, 1 day off, and I paid my own way through college. I graduated with a university degree in psychology at the most expensive university in Canada. I didn't know you should apply to multiple ones. That's the ones my cousins went to. I wrote them a letter, said I'm coming. That was basically my application. You don't know this, but a university degree is a big deal. It's better than a college degree. So if you talk to a Canadian, which I am, and you say which college you go to, we will correct you. No, I have a university degree. I don't have to pretend I went to Yale for a summer. I love Nick. Nick was at my house 2 weeks ago. I love Nick. I love him enough to listen to that exact same talk 2 weeks in a row. In my 20s, I was a university graduate. I graduated from the most expensive university in Canada, debt-free, but I was soon homeless. I was living in my car. That prayer of my life at age 14, it seemed a long ways off. I couldn't help myself, much less help other people. I had nothing. I was nothing. When I met that girl, I lived in that car. When I lived in that car, I used every dollar I had, and I bought a ring 5 weeks after I met her. And that's us today. That girl is named Amanda. She saw more inside of me than I saw. She's my best friend. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary in August. And those of you who are entrepreneurs, you understand. If you have someone at home that's constantly pointing out all the things that aren't working, that's it, you're done. We made $23,000 my first year as an entrepreneur living in Orange County. That math isn't mathing, as the kids say. We slept on air mattresses. My kids slept on air mattresses for 3 years. 2 of my kids slept in my closet. And we didn't have one of those massive big walk-in closets that could have been a bedroom. We had a closet that was barely a closet, and I had 2 kids living there. We were on food stamps. I stood in line for free food. And I was like, what am I doing? So she's one of the best moms I know, and she's a boss babe. She's a successful EOS implementer. Her superpower is that she speaks fluent visionary. So if you're a squirrel chaser, she speaks it. She's been doing life with a big dreamer for 2 decades, and my dream was to help kids. I found out when I moved here that 1 in 5 children in North America are abused by the time they turn 12 years old. And so we think often, sexual abuse comes to mind, but there's all different kinds of abuse. If you're a child and you're developing and a parent figure, an important figure in your life tells you you're not good enough over and over and over again, it rewires your brain and how you think about yourself, and that is abuse. Every kid I coached, I was determined to be the candle in their darkness. It was healing through play. The business wasn't a business, it was a rescue mission disguised as youth sports. But I was still the prover. I was still the bottleneck, I was still grinding, and it was continuing to destroy me because no amount of Band-Aids can fix an infected hole inside of you. I bought my first business for free. It was all I could afford to pay. I've actually bought 5 businesses for free, and 2 of them I overpaid. I built my soccer franchises into, my original one into 6 franchises across 2 different states. In an industry that builds jobs, I built an organization. $15 became a $2.5 million business, and I wasn't selling $1 million tractors. I was selling $20 soccer classes. So the past $2.5 million took a while. 63 kids became 10,000 players a year in our program. But still, I had no business experience. I had no idea what I was doing, and I ended up in one of the most competitive markets in the US. I worked 10 times harder than anyone I knew, but I was always trying to outwork everyone to prove that I was enough. But I was never enough. Through all that, God was teaching me things, but I was just too busy proving to pay any attention. Most people don't read the Bible, but they do open their Christians and read them. Beyond the title and cover page of the book that was my life, what I saw inside of myself was disappointing. I worshiped on Sunday, and I lived like the rest of the world on Monday through Saturday. The same addictions, lust, greed, pride, anger, I just hid them better than most people. I was a prover. I was trying to prove I'm a good Christian, a good man, while drowning in the same traps and shortcomings that everyone else drowns in. So I started to pray about 1.5 years ago. Every night I said, God, in your word, you tell us in Jeremiah that if we pursue with our whole heart, you will answer us. I've never heard you. I've never experienced you. I've pretended. I've gone to camps. I've raised my hands. I sang the songs. I've never felt you. After a while, feeling nothing with no answers, I began to admit out loud, I'm like, okay, the verse says is you pursue with your whole heart. I don't even know what that means. What does it mean to pursue with your whole heart? This is Greek to me. I don't understand. So I started praying. I was like, God, teach me how to do this. I prayed that for almost an entire year. And then in August, I had a massive reality check, August 2024. My wife says, you've been yelling at the kids on a weekly basis. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't remember a single time. I couldn't remember. I'm like, of course. I'm like, prove it. Tell me. Give me examples. Give me a list. And she just said, she's like, go talk to your kids. And so I went and talked to my kids, and I don't think adults apologize enough to kids. I don't think parents apologize enough to their children. I apologize to each one individually, and I begged for their forgiveness. And I told them, I'm so sorry. I'm going to do better. I'm going to get help. I don't know how to get help, but I'm going to get help. And then please give me patience as I try to figure this out. So I called my friend, Jason Bourne. First time I talked to him, my wife and I put the phone down. We're like, did we just talk to a real life Jason Bourne? He worked in special forces, and his talents have directly saved lives in Cameroon in the work we do. We work in the middle of a civil war. And I called him and I said, I'm like, man, I'm in trouble. And he said, Jobin, you were in trouble 6 months ago. I've been waiting for you to call me. He said, well, here's what's going on. You don't think you're worth spending money to fix yourself. And he said, I held my friends as they died. How dare I spend money on myself? Kids don't have a father. Spouses don't have a husband. He says, that's where you're at right now. So you're either going to go lose 10 years of relationship or you're going to get it fixed. So he said, you need therapy. He says, here's what you need to do. You need to figure out how to take some of the weight and set it here, not to run away from it, but just so that you can manage it and take on more. Because the people who are calling you and reaching out to you, they need you to be able to take more. So he told me which type of therapy to go to, and that poor therapist had no clue what to do with the stories I was telling him. And I went to 1 session, 2 sessions, 4 sessions, 5 sessions. The 8th session, he finally goes, when does it go quiet? Like, when does this stop for you? And I said, never. Every conversation with my best friend could be the last one I have because people want to kill him. And they want to kill me, but I live here, so I'm safe. It's not fair. And I said, I get videos at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'll see a little clip of it later, where my friends are hiding, and there's gunfight going on all around them. How is this real? And I said, it never goes quiet. And then I just kind of sat back, and we just had silence. And then I said, actually, when I'm surfing, I feel pretty good. And he's like, well, you should probably go surfing. And that's the best thing a therapist or a doctor or anybody could ever say to you. So I went home. My wife was like, did it work? Did he say anything? I was like, yeah. He said, go surfing. And I was like, holding my breath. I have a wife who is a full-time practice in EOS implementer. We have 5 children that were in 3 different schools at the time. And I'm like, I need to go to Hawaii for 17 days. Cool? And so she's like, go. This is my happy space. I took this picture while I was there on the 17-day trip. This is where everything went quiet. Diamond's in the background. I go there mentally. I pray and I go there. And I feel peace. And I went there in the back. My mom texted me. She goes, go to your wave, right before I came up here. So September 2024, I went there for 17 days. The voices, the cries of death, the anguish, the torture of children, they went quiet for 17 days. And when my wife and I met, we walked around a lake on our first date. We planned out our plan to adopt. We planned out our plan to live in Hawaii eventually. We planned out our plan to have businesses. So I knew I had to start making the move to Hawaii. I had to make the move. November 17th, I'm driving down the road. And I had been praying for well over a year. Silence. I'm praying to a ceiling, all I've ever experienced. Just bouncing back to me, hearing my own words, just an echo chamber. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm driving to LAX to pick up my wife, and the thought just comes to me like, man, your mom's in her 70s. And you've never asked her if she knew what that word meant. How stupid. Like if she dies and you didn't ask her, that's pretty stupid. And I feel stupid doing things like this. I call my mom and I'm like, hey mom, and I beat around the bush for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, mom, I've been praying for like a year and a half that I would experience God. And I'm like, this is gonna be super stupid, but do you know this word? And I said the word, shikara. And my mom was quiet and she goes, I haven't said that word in a very long time. And I said, I know, I heard you praying when I was 6. And she's like, when you were 6? That was like 40 years ago. I'm like, I know. And she's like, do you know what it means? And I said, yes. She goes, please tell me, I've never known. God just gave me that word when I was praying. And I said it out loud. And I was like, no. You said you know people who can interpret things like that. So call someone and ask them what it means. And then the phone went dead immediately. I'm like, mom? She goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, I thought the phone went dead. She goes, no, you said to ask someone who interprets. So I'm praying. And I was like, okay. Again, faith, right? I'm like, okay, probably a good call. So then she goes quiet and she says, Jobin, I am nervous to tell you. And I said, why? And she said, because I have a feeling right now that there's a big thing happening. And I said, mom, just tell me. And she's like, what if God gave me a different meaning of the word than what he gave to you? And what if this drives you? I said, mom, either he is or he is not. And why would he do that? And she goes, Jobin, it means peace. And I got real quiet. And you would think that would be enough, but I'm like, actually, it has a second word that gives it more context. And she goes, yeah, it's like a warrior that has so much strength that when chaos is happening all around, there's just peace. And I was like, okay, and I hung up the phone. And I immediately turned my life around. Nope. I spent 7 months thinking about it, being like, what the heck just happened? And I am an entrepreneur. I find patterns. I find explanations. So many times in my life, people be like, I prayed for a son and I had a son. It's a miracle. And I'm like, that's a 50-50. Right? And so I could take it all the way down to a 2%. I'm like, there's still 2 people out of 100 that had that story. That's not a miracle. This is 1 in millions and millions and millions when you put 2 words together. But I'm like, oh, this is crazy. This is crazy. I moved to Hawaii on June 20th. On June 22nd, I go to a church I've never been to before. I go 3rd row, and I sit behind a guy, and he's covered in tattoos. If you ever see a Hawaiian with triangle tattoos, those are shark teeth. And that's a warrior. And this is a warrior like this. And he's got little kids crawling all over him. I'm laughing. I had 4 kids in 5 years. I have a total of five kids in 7 years. And I'm watching this guy just be owned by babies. And I'm like, that was my life 10 years ago. I'm so glad I'm in the third row, not the second row. And then they did a baby dedication. If you've never been to church, there's a baby dedication. The baby's not becoming a Christian. They're taking him up there and they're saying, hey, we're going to raise this baby a certain way. And they're inviting the community to surround their family. And so I'm sitting there and they say they're going to do this. And then that family goes up. Well, during the course of this church service, I've never been to this church before. I don't know anybody at the church. I saw him. I was like, I want to be that guy's friend. He looks so cool. He's got, those are warrior tattoos, and I want Hawaiian friends. I look like this on the outside, but that's a complete accident. I'm camouflaged like one of those people. These are my friends. So it starts with, I want to be his friend, and it moves towards, that's my friend. And then he walks up on stage, and I'm like, it's my friend's the star of the show. And then because he has babies, they exit stage left afterwards and leave, and I'm like, there goes my friend. And I'm like, oh, I'll just see him next week. Monday, I go to the park. There's my friend. So I walk up and I was like, hey, my name's Joe Ben. It's a weird name, I apologize. I was at the church, I saw the baby dedication. I'm like, it was beautiful. And he stops for a second and he goes, okay. And he goes, Joe Ben, come to my house tomorrow. And he's like, it's gonna be, there's 8 bratas. And bratas is slang for Hawaiian, and I am not one of those. I can move to Hawaii, I can get a Hawaiian license, driver's license, I can be a local, I can never be a Hawaiian. He's 55% Hawaiian. His family's lived in the same valley for 7 consecutive generations. He is Hawaiian. So I go to his house, and I meet 2 people. Only 2 guys came that day, Ha'o and Kala. And they had prayed together, and then they came. And they said, this is how it's going to go down. We're going to share a testimony, and then we're going to pray for you. And I was like, this is weird. And so then they said, they shared their testimony, and I heard stories of 2 men that had no resemblance to the 2 men standing in front of me. No resemblance. Hardcore, violent criminals. And these are peaceful, kind, loving men that start crying when they're telling me about their life and how they became completely new people. And then they said, we're going to pray for you. And here, I told them nothing about my life. And Kala says, you have been tormented by a spirit of shame since you were assaulted as a kid. And I'm like, what is happening? And they said, we're going to pray. I'm a skeptic. They go, we're going to pray for you, and we're going to cast that spirit out. It has no power over you, and it's going to change your life. Are you down? I was like, I'm down. And so I just closed my eyes. I was like, this is the wildest thing I've ever heard of in my life. And then Hao comes, puts a hand on one shoulder. Kala puts his hand on the other shoulder. And it was the simplest prayer I've ever heard in my life. Simple. And it ended with spirit of shame, leave our brother in Jesus' name. And I didn't say it out loud. The words came out. I said, I'm free. I'm free. And 1,000 pounds I didn't even know I was carrying because I carried it for so long, left. And I was free. And they started laughing because they're like, it seems like you didn't understand that this is what's good. I'm like, I prayed 100 times. I prayed 1,000 times. Nothing ever changed in my life. Where were you for the last 40 years? Then Hao stood up and he walked over and he gave me a big bear hug, like a warrior, like pick you up kind of bear hug. And then he let go and he goes, whoa. And he looks at Kala and Kala goes, I know. And he goes, you have a warrior spirit inside of you. And I was like, I'm gonna get some shark teeth tattoos. And he goes, but not a Hawaiian warrior. And I was like, erase. And he goes, you are a warrior, but you're a warrior of peace. Does that mean anything to you? And I was like, oh man. And then Kala said, when I was praying for you, I saw a vision of a warrior surrounded by chaos, and the look on your face was absolute peace. Guys, my whole life changed on June 24th, 2025. And this story is crazy. And if I was sitting there, I'd be like, that's a crazy story, and he's a good storyteller. I'm not inviting you to believe my story. I'm inviting you to go and look for your own story. Because my story won't do you any good. My story changed my life. It won't change your life. I have no reason to make all that up. I have no reason to look like a fool and crazy person in front of people who I respect and admire. But that's what happened. And if it happened to you, you would not be able to keep it inside. I've shared this story more than 60 times. 30 of them were for more than 3 hours. It was crazy. There's way more to the story. My whole life shifted. Before that moment, I was one lost battle, right? We talk about pornography, alcohol, we talk about all kinds of addictions, and I'm fighting every battle like the whole war depends on it. And in that moment, I knew the war had been won. 2,000 years ago, my war was won. And then all the battles became easy. After the war against shame was won, my whole life changed. I came back 2 weeks later. I was like, guys, okay, we got to pray for pride. I dressed it up. I called it defensiveness. Because if we talked about this little problem, what if we had to talk about that one? The first time my wife started experiencing this, she was reacting defensively. She would say something and then be ready, and I was just laughing. I totally changed. She started calling all my friends and being like, you need to call Job, and like, he's gone crazy in a really good way. My dad used to say something to me all the time. He used to say, I used to walk in a room and be like, hey, man, who's winning? I'd watch this. My dad and I bond over sports. And he'd be like, well, we don't know yet, because he's an English teacher. And I'd be like, well, the blue team has 10 points and the red team has 3 points. So I'd go with the blue team's winning. And he's like, incorrect. What if the red team's just started the greatest comeback of all time? We don't know who's winning till we know the final score. And so I know the final score. And each point isn't determining the final score. Have you ever watched a football game after the football game was played and one of your friends texted you that who won? Sucks. But every interception, every touchdown, it's just like an individual little play. It doesn't really matter. The war is won, right? That's what happened in my life. I went from I must prove to it's been proven in a single instant. Then week after week after week, this was confirmed, and the trajectory of my entire life changed. I used to connect my self-identity to the business. If the business failed, I was a failure. That's a lot of freaking pressure. And I'm sure many of you feel that. If my business fails, if something dropped, then I'm a failure. It is not true. You can be freed from that. My sense of self-worth completely disconnected from that. I experienced a peace that surpasses all understanding. That brought me to the decision. Before I tell you what the decision was, let me take you back a tiny bit. We have 2 trails that are going to meet at this decision. So I saw this article in 2013 in the Tampa Bay Times, and it pissed me off. 50 worst charities in the U.S. raise over $1 billion, and they only give 4% of what they raise away. And there's story after story after story. So I was like, I'm going to do something about it. So I started my own nonprofit, and we give away 100% of what comes into the nonprofit. It's mostly my money. It's pretty easy to then give it away. Rwanda, 2013. If you guys are familiar, there's a genocide in Rwanda. And 20 years later, I'm in Rwanda, and I'm working with people whose family members were butchered in the Civil War. And I go to the genocide memorial and I start asking myself, am I doing enough? Have I done enough? This was before the big change. A 7-year-old boy came to me and gave me that award. I still have it in my office. And he came and gave an impact statement. I coach 500 kids. We teach coaches how to reposition themselves as mentors in the community. And he came and he said, I had this on my wall for 5 years. He said, Coach, thank you so much for coming here. I don't have a father. No one's ever taught me about football before. But what mattered the most, and what I'll never forget, is you came here and you didn't care if I was a boy or a girl. You didn't care if I was good at football or bad at football. You just came here and you loved me. I'm going to pray for the rest of my life that you get to make more children feel the way I feel right now. And I started bawling. I ended up in Cameroon. Where is it? Right by Nigeria, on the West Coast. I have pictures of myself the first time I was there in 2017. People were like, man, you look really calm for being in a country that has a civil war breaking out all around you. I'm like, well, if no one tells you there's a civil war, you're going to feel pretty calm. So I meet Kingsley, and I go to run some camps. I did camps in the French-speaking part, and then I went to the English-speaking part to do camps there. Because it's a jealous nation, I said I wanted 10 kids, but every academy had to bring 4 or 5 kids. I ended up with 50 kids ranging from 3 to 17 years old. How do you coach that? Every coach I was training went and sat under a tree and just abandoned me. And then Kingsley, who was the youngest, he's an uncommon man. He walks out and he goes, you need help. And I was like, I need help. And so I started working with him. I donated a few soccer balls to his academy. And I thought, we're killing it. This is exceeding my wildest dreams. The prayer over me when I was a teenager has all come true. I'm now impacting children across 3 continents using this gift of soccer, something I'm passionate about. And that's what I thought it was. Then I get a phone call in 2020. The phone rings, and it's Kingsley. He's angry. The city reopened a school, and the terrorists were angry about it, and they went to the school, and they shot a bunch of kids. And he said, I saw them go by, and I sprinted after them, and I couldn't do anything. He couldn't get there in time. And he's calling me from the school, and there's people screaming. The kids are dead. The kids I coached in 2017, 2 of the kids from this picture are dead. I knew their faces. I made them laugh. I tried to be the candle in their darkness, and they're gone. And it hit me hard. This isn't a movie. This is a real war. These are real kids, and they're dying while I sit here in Southern California. Their families are screaming in anguish, and I started sobbing in my backyard. Kingsley, what can we do? We're just soccer coaches. The parents decided not to have funerals because they didn't want the terrorists to come back, take the money from the government, have the funeral, and then the terrorists come back and say, see, they're with the government, and then killed all the rest of the kids. So I said, man, we got to do something about it. So I started trying to send them money. I got banned from 4 different money transfer companies, including Western Union. I got banned for life. The 5th one, I called them 12 times. And every time, I was super calm. I'm like, I just want to talk to a person, not a policy. I just want to explain what's going on. And 2 days later, I got a phone call from a guy named Shia, and he said, Jobin, I listened to all 12 of your messages. Thank you for being respectful to my staff. You're correct. It's a policy. It's a policy in place because 100 out of 100 times I'm right. If we get caught sending money into a conflict zone and gets traced to arms, it gets traced to anything that contributes to the conflict, we will be banned from sending money to that country for life, and then it's dominoes. And then our company will go out of business. He goes, you are 101, so what do I do with 101? And so he said, tell me your story. So I told him my story, and at the end of it, he says, this is my cell phone. I've never called a client before. If you ever need to get money into a conflict zone, you text me, and I'll put it through. And he's facilitated hundreds of thousands of dollars going into conflict zones and risked his business to help me. I said to Kingsley, we need to open a school. No one else is going to do anything, so we can try. So Kingsley went and sat with the government, got permission. We got the school license so the test would count. And then came the hard part. He called a meeting with the general of the terrorist army. And he sat with them, risked his life, sat with them and said, hey, we're losing a generation. They have no education. Can we please open a school? And will you guarantee the safety? And he said, yes. So 2 soccer coaches opened a soccer school. Opening day, opened an elementary school. It was for 150 kids. There's now over 300 at that school. The opening day, I see pictures of kids playing in dirty water, and there's cups by the water. I'm like, what's going on? And he said, oh man, we have no access to clean water here. And we have a cholera pandemic. And he's like, do you know what cholera is? And I was like, yeah. I said, I know exactly what it is. And I said, what can we do? He said, we should probably dig some wells. I was like, I don't know anything about digging wells. He goes, me neither, but YouTube, it's all there. So we went and started digging wells. We put one at the school, and we solved 2 problems by accident. We ended the call. That was the beginning of the end of the cholera outbreak in that entire region. Just 2 soccer coaches digging wells. Because suffering people don't need experts. They need people who just say yes and then do something about it, not just thoughts and prayers, although those are important. Girls no longer had to walk before dawn to go to the river to get dirty water. They were getting raped every week. Girls were getting raped, and the rapes ended, completely ended. As someone who's abused as a kid, that means a lot to me. One solution, multiple fixes, but now we're the targets. Now there's cannibals that want to eat me and my friend Kingsley. It's crazy. 2025. There's freaking cannibals out there. We go to the chiefs, and we're like, hey, we want to start digging more wells. He goes, no problem. Say, this nice little plot of land over here. $22,000. I'm like, what the heck? $22,000, that's 4 years of income for him. $22,000. So I'm like, fine, buy the land. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, now you need the title, $6K more. $28,000 into giving him a free well. And some people start saying like, what are you doing with this land? Why do you guys buy this land? And so I call Kingsley, I'm like, hey Kingsley, can you meet me in Kenya in 3 weeks? And he's like, he's an uncommon man. He already has a passport just in case. Nobody has a passport just in case. He'd never left the country, he has a passport. So he comes, meets me in Kenya, and we take an organic farming school. I'm the only Mzungu. Was a white wanderer in the back of the class. We come back and we offer 1,500 people a free education at farm. No one will do it. Because if they trust a white man and the white man doesn't do what he said, they carry shame forever. 46 grandmothers and mothers are like, nah, this can change our life. And so they came. 100% of them graduated. We gave each of them 2 times the seeds they need, and we gave them the 9 tools they need, and each one of them can feed 40 people a day. Now we run that. We run it every semester. We run one. It just depends on finances. My wife and I finance almost everything. How do we pay for all that? Not very easily. But we have so much higher of a calling than children's soccer. This is not a charity. This is an empowerment. We didn't give them food. We gave them the ability to grow food. How do we finance a lot of this? Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I started a taxi company in Cameroon. We have 22 taxis. The taxis pay all the teacher salaries. They provide 22 jobs, full-time jobs for the drivers. The teachers are all covered by the profits of the taxi driver, the taxis. The farm produces crop. We have 6 nutrition crop and 2 medicinal crop. We grow Artemisia, which is what all malaria medicine is made from. The pharmaceutical company buys the malaria medicine and then processes it and then sells it back for way more than they can afford. There's no cure for malaria. You can only treat it or prevent it. And so we teach them how to grow it, how to process it, and turn it into a tea. And so 2 soccer coaches have ended lack of water, which was causing a cholera outbreak. We've turned around a complete lack of education for a generation, so we're providing education. We have ended a malaria crisis. So if you think you're not ready to start doing stuff, this is what 2 soccer coaches did. This room collectively can change continents. And it can change it tomorrow, not like in 10 years when you think you're ready. Because they don't need experts, they need people to just say yes. We built an entire ecosystem. We sell the produce puts money into the pharmacy. The pharmacy is run by a nurse who said she would do it for free. We don't believe that that's sustainable, so we sell the medicine and then we pay her salary and it just loops. We built an entire ecosystem. I'm gonna show you this video to show you 2 minutes of what we do.
My name is Boa Simon. Thank you, GoBundance, for making us to learn.
It becomes very, very difficult for them to leave their school area and to go and fetch water. So with all these situations, I think the best thing one can do is to bring water. We have education, we have water. As long as water has arrived, our children will be happy. More grace to the B7, and we believe that more is still to come. Thank you very much.
I'm planting maize, egusi, groundnut, cassava, and sweet potatoes. Thank you, Mr. Jobe.
So close your eyes for this next slide, if you need to. This is the one graphic slide where I'm going to show you what war is like. Some of you have served and you've seen war, and you don't need to see it again. There's no shame in closing your eyes, but this is real. This video, there's going to be 3 pictures. One is a video that was sent to me in Scottsdale at the last fall event, and it was sent to me with a warning that this is what they're going to do to Kingsley if they catch us. I got it under the table at one of the events. It was devastating. The next one is a little girl. She graduated. She was one of our first graduates, 6th grade. They came in, and they held her down, and they ironed her face, one half of her face. The third picture is one of my teachers. They tortured his children in front of them, and then they killed one of our teachers. The most recent was 10 days ago. If you need to close your eyes, there's no shame in that. Here we go. This is the boy. His younger brother's name is Joben. Here is the miracle. That's that same boy. So miracles are happening all the time. When we rushed him to the hospital, they told us to come and get his body. They wanted to send us a message. Our taxi service is actually an underground ambulance service. 2 drivers went in to get him. While I'm in the meeting, here, they're texting us and they're calling. They're like, he's alive. He's still breathing. He's alive. So they race him there. Surgeon comes running out to me and he says, hey, you're Kingsley in the white, right? That's what they call me, the white. I'm like, all right, fine. And he says, I've called 2 surgeons from other towns. They're all coming. We're going to save this kid. You tell the white, we're going to do everything we can. So 3 surgeries later, this is the kid. Healthy, happy, fully alive, happy. Before I go any further, I have a message from Kingsley. If you've supported any of our projects, please stand up really quickly. Please stand up really quickly. Kingsley told me to take this moment to say thank you in front of other people. This is what's really happening. There were people that were in a, thank you guys. You got a seat. Is Alex in here? Alex V? I don't know his last name. Alex. When I was in Kenya, a girl got raped and I could not get the last welter. I didn't have any money. And I texted a group and I said, like, please guys, you don't even know me. I just joined GoBundance. You can sit down, Alex. And Alex covered the rest of the water project. And he had never met me. One time. Nope, never met me. And he covered the water project. So here we are at the decision. We're all caught up. You've heard what I built in the US, you've heard what God did in my life, and now we're at the big decision. So it became very clear. I'm supposed to sell my business. It's the worst time to sell my business, second worst time. June 2020 was probably the worst time. This is the second worst time. But God has something way more. I am the bottleneck, and it's time to sell. I was a prover with an empty container, and now I'm a builder, and it's overflowing and splashing everywhere. Not because everything's dropping out the bottom, because God just keeps putting stuff in it. Here is a message from some of the parents.
Thank you for the agricultural program that you hosted the last time. It helps the women to improve their produce in their farms. It helps the education system help the kids to go back to school, learn how to write, and to be somebody in the future. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it if you can come back.
My name is Quinta Ekalesin. I want just talk for and say thank you for what you be doing for me.
Thank you. My name is Dominion. I want to thank those who have provided us with education here. It's really a privilege for us. Now we have the privilege to go to school.
Thank you for the water you are giving us. It's very privileged. Thank you for everything. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Emanuela. I want to use this platform to say thank you so much for providing us with good water system, education, above all health. Our mothers here have benefited a lot from your drugs, agricultural sector. We are so happy we can plant. At least there's a great improvement. And our children, I for one, have benefited a lot. I can read, I can write, I can speak fluently. I thank you so much. And I pray that God will continue to bless you for a good work and you will never regret it. Thank you so much. We are very happy.
I'm happy to be at Amanda's school. The other time I was not school here. Now I'm happy because there are teachers to teach us. Everybody is here to learn.
God bless you. So you need to work hard, listen to your teachers, read your notes, tell your parents to work with you guys. Is that okay? All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Amanda School of Bright and Gifted Pupils in Bobanda, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. This area is located under Bonge subdivision, one of the subdivisions in Meme divisions. And as you can see, we are in a classroom. This is the nursery section. Ladies and gentlemen, in normal cities like Douala, Kumba, a classroom for nursery doesn't look like this. But because of the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, the children are forced to leave, to stay and learn in such a condition where there are no tables. Each pupil has to come with chairs from their houses. And here we are calling on support to please come to this area and assist these children. The children are there, close to 300 pupils who are eager to get knowledge, but the problem is teachers and also a comfortable learning environment which these children do not have. In some classes, we have close to 50 pupils in a class, which is not normal. In each normal class, we can have about 30 pupils, but here we have close to 50 pupils, which makes learning very, very difficult for these pupils. And so we continue to call, please help us to make a learning in this environment comfortable for these pupils. And also, some of them cannot go to school. We talk about those who are in the secondary level because there is no secondary school in this area. One, because there is no classroom to organize a secondary school, and also no teacher to teach these students who are eager to learn, which makes them go around doing illegal activities and makes them not to mingle in the society. And so if we want to stop things like that, please help our brothers and sisters, make them an environment suitable for learning, give them classrooms in Bobanda where they can undergo studies and become great people in the society. Thank you very much.
So we just opened another school, 350 kids. The reason they don't have desks is because it went from 150 to 300 kids almost overnight. And it's my wife and I just trying to keep up. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but she's all in, thank goodness. We're opening another school. Kale, are you in here? I've never actually met you in person. Kale just sent $8,500 to help us get the taxi so we can pay the teachers. Kingsley launched the school without my permission. I didn't have any money to pay the teachers. And Kingsley's like, good news, we had our first day. I'm like, what are you doing? But that's Kingsley. He has a ton of faith. So, Kale, huge thank you. I owe you a massive hug. At that region, no kid 13 and under has had a single day of school. This is the first time they're going to school. They are hungry to learn. And the only way we don't keep repeating what's going on right now is if we educate them. All the parents believe in it. They walk their kids to school. It's one of the most important parts of having the education stick is the parents being involved, and they walk their kids to school every day. We're short on desks. We've opened the school. Like you saw, kids are sitting on the ground because it doesn't matter. They want to learn. They come every day and they sit there and they want to learn. They name the schools. We don't name them. And so Amanda's School for Bright and Gifted Children was named after my wife. Ma is a term of endearment. And so they call the second one is Ma Marty, which is my mom's name. I've never had anything named after me except for a child, which is a pretty freaking big deal. But I haven't had a school yet named after me. Maybe that'll be the third or fourth one. But these are not statistics. These are children. And the needs continue. We have a prison program. We started going in there running soccer tournaments, and then we found out that if they can't pay the fine associated with their incarceration, they don't get let out. And so Kingsley started using his salary, and he's freed 4 inmates. One has been in there for he's been in there for 2 years beyond his sentence because he didn't have $150. That's crazy. And so these are the type of things we're doing. They just keep coming. So this is what Kingsley wanted me to ask you guys. Will you just say yes? He wants to know if you'll give 1 cup of coffee a month, or 3 cups of coffee a month, or 5 cups of coffee a month. I put in an additional option on the next page, but this is Kingsley's idea. Just tell him it's a cup of coffee. I didn't have the heart to tell him that you can't go to Starbucks and get anywhere close to a cup of coffee for $5 anymore. Next is the last slide. So I believe that there are 4 T's of giving, not 3. One is talk, one is telling people, one is sharing. And so if you guys go to that same QR code, and if you already have your own projects, then go all in on your own projects. If you can afford $1, I tried to make it 0, but it won't let you. Then go in, do one-time payment, and choose $1. And then there's an option to send an encouraging message. Over and over again, Kingsley tells me, I send messages that anybody tells me. I send him messages, and he says it's so encouraging. He goes and he reads them to all the staff because they don't want to be forgotten. And our guy who just died 10 days ago, they don't want him to be forgotten. These people are fighting for justice, and they're fighting for kids in ways that we never will have to. And so if you have your own projects, please keep supporting them. But if you have $1 extra, I tried to make it 0. The platform doesn't let me. 100% of what you give goes to these communities. I don't keep anything. I've never kept $1. I also don't pay people. And so people are like, oh, I built a website for you. It costs you 20 grand. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm looking for someone to do it for free. And they tell me no one does anything for free. And I go, I do. And then you find the right people. So I've had everything that we've ever had built has been done for free. Because there are people out there that want to give of their talent. Maybe they don't have the treasure, but they'll give their talent, they'll give their time. So that's my talk. That's what I'm doing right now. That's what I shared on the phone. It is a 6-hour story that I condensed into 0 minutes. It says on there, I only took 0 minutes. And so I'm a couple minutes over, but Matt, if you have any questions or anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, let's give him a big round of applause, guys.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to take a picture for Kingsley.
We love you, Kingsley!
Woo!
Let's give him a round of applause, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
So real quick, before you jump off stage, I want to have people share what that message meant to them. Gratitude, appreciation, thoughts. That was heavy. That was deep. That was impactful. That was powerful. That was transformational. What resonates with you guys? All the way into the back, table 25.
First, thanks for sharing that, man. That was amazing. Thank you. What you said about when you know the final score of the game, every point, if there's a setback, it matters less. And if there's a victory, you just know it's part of what was bringing you to that inevitable conclusion of success. That is such a message of faith. Dude, I wrote that down. I'm going to carry that with me forever. That's really powerful. Thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for sharing that, man. Table 13.
Thank you for sharing that, Jobin. Your mission is incredible. I think, our future, seeing the kids that we get to raise is really important. So I'm really proud of you for that. Something that landed home with me, I'm sure nobody else can relate to this, but you said, the war was over 2,000 years ago, referring to, Jesus Christ dying on the cross for us. And so I'm in a season right now in a new chapter where the friction of my life is finally starting to go away. So those voices and those limiting beliefs are very freeing. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to sharing that with this group of men.
Let's give him a round of applause. One more. 17.
Jobin, you know I love you, man. I am so glad you shared this story. So just real quick, I got to know Jobin. He invited me to his house in Hawaii before he even knew me. And so my mom's Hawaiian, I'm part Hawaiian, and we had to spread her ashes when she passed away in Hawaii. And Jobin just opened his home, and he's like, hey, if you want to come hang out with us, just come stay with us. I mean, we've got my 5 kids. My parents are here. And I'm like, well, there's 5 of us. He goes, that's okay. It'll be fun. It'll be such a great time. And our kids had such a great time getting to know your kids, and just watching how your kids act is a true testament on just the heart that you and Amanda have.
Thank you.
And Jobin didn't even get into this. He could talk for 6 hours about everything that he's done. But even Sebastian, and if y'all don't know, they adopted Sebastian out of birth order. They already had 4 kids and adopted a 5th one, and it was the oldest. And just seeing the change that you made in his life is just unbelievable. So Jobin, thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Let's give him another big round of applause, guys.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So one of the things that hit me the most is when he played that video at the end, those young children were talking about how privileged they are to have water, how privileged they are to have education, how privileged they are to have food. Those are all the things everyone in this room, myself included, take for granted each and every day. And now those kids are saying thank you because they have the privilege of water, of food, of education. It's just a great opportunity to be reminded of how truly capable we are as a tribe to actually go and change the world, to actually go and make impact. That's the power of this group. That's the power of these men. That's the bold, brave missions that we've set out. Now, understanding that business drives a lot of these things. Business fuels a lot of these possibilities. But at the end of the day, our heart, our soul, our passion is what's going to truly change the world. And with people like Jobin, with things like the foundation, we can ride alongside Jobin and truly help change the world, make the world a safer place, a healthier place, a happier place. So I'm really grateful to be a part of GoBundance. I'm really grateful to have amazing men inside of this group that pushed Jobin to reach out to me to say, hey, I have a story I think I need to share from stage, and hopefully that resonated with you all.
Hello, everyone. I am Ito Kingsley, the country coordinator of B7 Organic Agriculture. It's a privilege. It's a very big privilege for me to stand in front of you today to express how I feel or the importance of our projects here in Cameroon. Firstly, I want to say a very big thank you to all our partners, to all our sponsors, and to all of you out there that we have a big task ahead of us. Firstly, our women have benefited a lot in this project. The Organic Agricultural Project has enhanced the knowledge of these women to be able to grow their crops organically. Formerly, we had to use pesticides, which brought a lot of diseases. And the introduction of the B7 Organic Agriculture, it has helped to shape the narratives on how these farmers have to plant their crops. Secondly, we talk about our water system. Our people now have a fresh water system in the villages. It is a plus to the B7 organization and how to manage this water system. And the knowledge, everything is thanks to the B7 organization. Most importantly, education. The crisis has actually crippled a lot of children, setting out a lot of them not to go to school. It was not easy for us to set up these schools. First of all, we had resistance from the fighters. We had resistance from even the government. But thank God that we are still counting because the God has always been with us. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for your encouragement. And we believe that more is here to come. We have these projects down there, and we are hoping that this 2026 will be a year to remember. Thank you, Jobin. Thank you, all the partners. We believe that the best is here to come. As long as God tarries, we shall meet. Ciao.